Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Data Physics Coffee Break Seminar Series. Today we'll be covering graph attributes in SignalCalc 900. My name is Holden Gibler. I'm an application engineer for data physics. Today is December 30th, 2022. Our agenda for today, we'll be covering what are graph attributes. I'll give you an overview of the graph attributes window, and then a quick example of graph templates and how to save and use them. All right, let's go ahead and open SignalCalc 900. So here we have our managed test screen. Hopefully you all are familiar with the screen. Today we'll be accessing a run that I've taken. It's an impact hammer test. If you want to see more information on how to set up and run an impact hammer test, please visit our YouTube channel. And we have an hour-long video dedicated to impact hammer testing. So if I want to open this run, I'm going to double-click this run, and this will bring up a window. So I have 4 different graphs here. Today we'll be mainly editing this transfer function graph. If I want to access graph attributes, I will click on the graph, I will right-click, go to graph attributes, click graph attributes. So here we have our graph attributes window. It's a pop-up window, and we have a bunch of sub-tabs. We have the main tab, the traces tab, axis tab, cursors tab, documentation, titles, graph, and markers. The main tab here is where the most commonly used features or most commonly used parameter changes you can make on a graph, and these are updated through releases depending on user feedback. Most of the time, this is where you can change your axis scaling, the display type, add cursors, and add major grids, legends, minor grids, and statistics. So here, a lot of this is covered in the sub-tabs here, so I won't edit anything here, but I can choose the display type here. So we can use magnitude, phase, mag phase superimposed, real, imaginary, or real imaginary. In the case of this tutorial, I'll leave it at magnitude. And I also change the axis scaling to log. We will start with the axis tab. So again, you can add the display type here again. You can change the axis scaling. You can change the range. So in the case that I wanted to only view data from 0 to say 600 Hertz, I can change from auto to fixed. I can change the min-max, so I can view 600, hit enter, and it'll only display up to 600 Hertz. In this case, I want to view all of my data, so I'm gonna hit auto, and it'll bring everything back. The grids here, I can add major and minor grid lines for each axis. So if I want to add a minor grid line, I can hit this check mark and this check mark. And this will add minor grid lines. The label format here, so this is where I can change the label format of each axis. So in the case of my x-axis, I will leave it engineering units. My y-axis, so I can change to decimal, and you can see it as decimals, or I can change to scientific. In this case, I want to just use decimal here. And I can change the label precision. I can add the amount of zeros or significant figures. I'm going to leave it at 2. Here's the engineering unit. So by default, it'll just take the default for the value, but I can change this to say, well, it's default Hertz, change the order, change the radians per second, or RPM. In this case, I'll leave it as Hertz. Same thing with the y-axis. You can actually change the, this will actually do an integration for you. So if I want to put it in a unit of distance, feet or inches, also in metric units, say meters, but in this case, I want to leave it in units of acceleration. So I'll use G's. You also can use inches per second squared. In this case, I'll use G's. The reference engineering unit. So in this case, we have a transfer function here. So it's grams per pound force, but I can change this to volts for the input voltage, or I can change it to newtons. We'll leave it in newtons for this example. The phase engineering unit, because I had a phase graph, I could change the phase engineering unit. Weightings, this is not really applicable to a transfer function test, but if you had acoustic data, you can change the weighting. In this case, it's not applicable to this test, but that's how you would change it. If we go back here to traces, this is where I can add a legend. I will disable the legend and enable the legend so you can see what it does. I will disable all the options besides one. So here's a signal name. This will display the signal name with the 2 channels. So It's a measurement channel and a reference channel. I can add the channel names. So this is in the test setup. This is the channel names displayed, the point direction, the run name, the test name, and the safe number. So in this case, I will add the safe number and the run name. Here's where I can change the color of the trace. So in case I wanted to view it in a different color, say black or just like lime green, whatever color you want. In this case, I'll leave it blue. I can choose a line width here. I'll do 2 or 5, makes it real thick, but we'll leave it at 2. I can change the style. So here's we have solid, we have dot, we have short dash dot, long dash dot, and long dash dot dot. We will do dot or short dash dot. The chart style, I can change it to a scatter plot, to a line, to a fill up, fill down, or fill to level. And I can define the mag fill level. So in this case, I can define it as say 1. And it'll fill to the level of 1. In this case, when we just do the fill color, I'll leave it fill down. Fill color, I can change the color of the fill. So if I want to put it in black, or I can do, again, lime green, multiple colors, leave it in blue, and it'll add a fill. In this case, I'll just do the line for this example. There's the traces tab. Here's the cursors tab. So this is where you can add cursors. You can do single pick. You can do double cursors, harmonics, or peak pick. In this case, I'll do peak picks, and this will pick the highest peak. If I say I wanted the top 6 peaks, I can add a number, change to 6. It'll add 6 cursors to the graph. I can have labels here. I can add all traces. I can do label all, and I can see the X and Y coordinates of each of these cursors. I can add a dampening value to it, say which is not applicable. I can hide the lines when I go to move through the cursor. If I go and if I remove that line, you can see the cursor line. Here is the show the cursor info box, which is applicable here. I can change the active cursor color, which will be this right here. I can change it from, say, black to blue. Just change the line here, as you can see. I'll leave it in black. I can change the width of the cursor. Put it thinnest. Please, I'll leave it in 2. The format here, you can change the user format of the displayed data. So I can put it in user, or I can just take directly from my axis tab. This is, I'll define it as user, and I'll put it in scientific. Right. Documentation. This is where we can add, again, this goes over the signal names, channel names. If I can unselect these, it'll change the documentation up here. I can add graph statistics. I can display my max value, display my min value, my max absolute value, peak to peak, which is applicable, my mean, my standard deviation, and variance. In this case, I'll leave my max and min displayed. I can change the format. So right now I have it in user and scientific, but I can change it to axis, and it'll display here. That's documentation. Under titles, this is where I can edit titles. So right now I have a defined title. I can use a default title, which won't include any. But if I want to uncheck that and add a custom title, I can change this to say Target Function Seminar, and enter. It'll update the title. I can change the color of the title to whatever color I want. Put it like a yellow. You can put it in black, so it's easy to see. You do the font. You can change the font to whatever you want. I'll leave it in Arial. The font style, I can just put it in normal, bold, italic, or bold italic. We'll do bold italic. How about that? Font size, I can change the font. So I can put it very small, larger, and so forth. Effects, I can add it, keep it normal, no underline. add an underline, or I can even do a strike through if you so choose. And then I can apply this to the graph title and also the X and Y axis. So I can change the fonts or the color of, say, the X axis in hertz here. Just color this. As you can see, the color changed. For the same blue, I'll do this darker blue. I could change the font. So I can change whatever font I want. Again, I can add that strike through or the underline. It's up to user preference. And labels, this will change the labels of the graph, so all be different. The labels here, I can change the color, so it'll change the color of the labels. In this case, I'll leave them black, so they're easy to see. And I can apply all these same effects. Here's our graph tab. Again, I can change the display type if I wanted. I can change the graph area. So say if I want an all white graph, I can change it to white. That's a plot area, but it's all white. I can change the graph area. So if I want to inverse and do black here, change it to black. Any color you want. We could do this kind of background. We'll do white. And in the graph border, I can add a graph border here. I can change the width, have a thicker border, a thinner border. And then the plot border as well. I can add a plot border. I'll change the color. The major grids. The major grids here, I can actually change the color of the major grid lines. So on the x-axis, I can change it to black, or you can do a silver. I can change the width of the lines. And I also can change the style. I can put them in dot, short dash. In this case, I'll leave them solid. And then the minor grids, I will change to a dot or a short dash. There we go. Then the margins here, this is where I can edit the margins of my graph. In this case, it'll auto scale to be able to see the titles of the axes. If I say change this to 1, the bottom, it'll cut off the title of the axis. So I'll leave this back. I'll put it back to 2.5. This is where you could edit the margins on your graph. And also, if I wanted to display this onto my graph, I could double click here and then drag, and this will bring the annotations down. That way my graphs will look bigger. So then for markers here, what I'll do is I will delete these cursors. So I'll go peak pick and I'll do a single pick. And then I'll go back to markers. And this is where I can add a marker. You can just hit M to add a marker as well. Here. I can add multiple markers by hitting, I can hit add here, or I could hit M on my keyboard. I'll click add just for the visual sake. So here I'm adding markers. So I can change the style or the size, make the markers bigger so you can see them. I'll put them in 8. I can change the style of the marker. I can change the format as well. Put in decimal or scientific or engineering or just axis. And this is where I can view all my markers, and I can actually delete some here. So say if I want to delete this 2, I can click on that and click delete, and it'll remove that marker and then update the values. So that is the markers tab. So I'm going to hit OK. And this is the new graph. I can double click it to enlarge it, and I double click to close it out. If I wanted to say add an annotation to my graph, I'll make it bigger. I will right click on my graph. I will go add annotation. And this will bring up our dollar variables menu. And I go over this in detail in the custom reporting coffee break seminar, which is on our website and on our YouTube channel. Here's where I can add, say, the name of the test, the start date, and then I can add something custom. So I'll put seminar here. I'll hit apply, and this is what will be shown on the graph. I can hit OK, and then this annotation will be added. I can drag it up here. And also a right click can go options, and I can add all these different options for an annotation. If I wanted to save this as a template, so that way I don't have to manually go in and apply this to every single graph, I can just make it easy on myself. I can save this graph template. I will call this, we'll say, template. You can name it whatever you want. I hit new. And then for any graph that is, say this is in the frequency domain, so I only can apply this template to another graph in the frequency domain. I couldn't apply it to my time history data here, but I can right click here and I can hit apply graph template. I'll click TF template and hit apply. Okay. And this will display, this will add the template to the graph. And of course, this is wrong. It's not a transfer function, but I can edit this. If I go to right click, go to graph attributes, I'll go to my titles. I'll just hit default and hit OK, and it'll fix that. Thank you all for joining.
Again, my name is Holden Gibbler, applications engineer for data physics. My contact info is down at the bottom if you have any questions. For more information, you can visit our website, dataphysics.com, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.